And welcome back to the Morning Blend, where we are cooking with Thunder Bay. Today, a professional chef is here to tell you the 4 knives you must have in your home kitchen.
Mike Stigler is the executive chef at Thunder Bay. He's our professional, and he's going to teach us what we got to have for cutlery.
He's going to teach us what the pros know, right?
Good morning, ladies.
What
Hey,
your
Mike.
grandma maybe or maybe didn't give you.
Definitely. Now, most of us have at home that kitchen knife drawer, right? And you go in there and you shuffle through, and there's all sorts of weird knives in there, shaped this way and that way. Half of them you don't ever use. You know, I'm going to show you today the 4 knives that you can hold on to, get rid of all the rest, and these will be able to do pretty much 99.9% of all the tasks that you need.
Awesome.
And the
Okay, you
knives-
have more than 4 there,
I
but
do,
you're kind of
yeah.
going to make
We're
a
gonna
point
work our
that
way through them.
you might have one knife in 2 different sizes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Now you'll notice today, the first knife we're going to talk about is going to be the traditional chef knife.
Bad
and
boy.
this knife here can do a large amount of the tasks that you're going to need to do in the kitchen. I could probably get away with having just this knife and be pretty successful with it. And you'll notice that this knife here, you think, oh, professional chef, he's going to bring on some fancy $200 German imported knives. The knives that I brought today are real working knives, straight out of the kitchen out at Thunder Bay.
So you see those marks on them?
Because these are the knives that actually get used. Those fancy knives, maybe you'll break them out for a special event or something when you want to look really good. But when we're doing like high production work, you know, things where we need to, you know, pump through some prep and get some things done, we are going for our non-fancy knives.
How often do you sharpen them?
We actually sharpen these as we go throughout the day. You know, the trick to keeping a knife sharp is not to let it get dull. You know, if you're using your knife and letting it get dull, it's going to be really hard
Just
to put
like
a
your
good
brain.
edge back on there. And what we like to use to keep our knives sharp on a regular basis is something called a steel. Now, this is a sharpening steel, but when you use this, you're not actually sharpening the knife so much as you're straightening out the edge. Because when you're constantly cutting with that edge of the knife, what you're doing is you start to roll over that steel a little bit, and that's what's causing it to get dull. So when you use a sharpening steel like this, what you're doing is you're running down the length of the blade, like so, and you're actually straightening out that edge again. And if you do this kind of on a regular basis after you're cutting, you will keep that edge nice and sharp, and you won't have to spend so much time going back through. So you're basically straightening out the edge on the blade right there. Is what
A lot
you're
of
doing.
people have those little, you know, they're like a little box with the wheels on the side. You put the knife in it.
Goodness
I've seen
gracious.
those before. Are those not
Get
as
rid
good?
of them quick. Yeah.
Okay, get rid
what
of
those
them.
do is they just remove a ton of metal. They get all the metal off of your
to
blade.
know.
Yeah, those are not good to go.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you how a couple of different ways we use the chef knife. The chef knife, you'll notice, has a curvature to the blade, and the curvature of that blade is designed so that the knife can be used in a rocking motion like this. I mean, you'll see on TV, you'll see a lot of chefs and they're going like this, trying to look all fancy. Don't do that. It serves no purpose. You're losing contact with the cutting board when you're doing that. You're whacking.
yeah.
You're going to cut yourself. You're going to not get even cuts. We don't do it that way in the kitchen.
It does sound
not
cool.
The way. It sounds cool, but you know, we're looking for actual results here.
Okay.
So what you want to do is you're going to use the knife in a rocking motion. So I'm going to get rid of those end pieces on these onions here. And what we're going to do is use the knife like so. So you notice that I'm rocking back and forth with the
And the
knife.
tip really,
Yep.
yeah, it just
And
goes
you
back and
never
forth.
lose contact with the board at any point.
Let's see how fast you can do it.
Anytime.
Watch
It's
your
not about
fingers.
speed. It's not about
I know, but I
speed.
bet you can do it really fast.
What you want to try to do here is you're
That's
trying
pretty.
to rock the knife, and you're keeping your fingers moving backwards as long as the knife gets closer. Anytime the
How
knife...
much of the onion do you use?
The
All
whole,
of it?
the whole part, yeah. We'll use this part right here for the sake of, you know, garnishing or whatever we're going to do. We'll save the rest of this and use it for stock, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Another nice thing you can do with the chef knife, which is an alternate use for it, is we do this at home for the kids when you're julienning carrots, you know, which is basically just making them into long strips. So we got our peeled carrot here. We're going to go ahead and cut it the long way. And this knife is heavy like this.
That's a nice
It's a heavy
knife.
knife, so you can get right in there and go right through it. You're not messing around with a little paring knife. You're going right through it like so. You're going to cut it into long pieces like that. And then from that, you're going to cut it into slightly more manageable pieces, keeping the flat side on the board all the time. And you'll notice that I'm not gesturing with my knife as we're talking. I'm keeping this knife on the board
Thank you
for
for that.
safety purposes.
Yeah.
Because when you work with knives a lot, like I do, the odds of getting in an accident go up exponentially. So I do everything that I can to avoid that.
Yeah.
At all points, keeping this knife on the board. So you're using the end piece of the knife here, the back portion, because it's heavier and thicker, and you get these really nice julienne pieces of carrots, just like
beautiful.
that. Real
Okay.
simple. So this knife, absolutely essential. Got to have a chef knife.
All right, we've got
Best
about a
friend.
minute, so we
Okay.
might have to go through the other 3 pretty quickly.
Next
I know
knife
the
we
chef
have
knife
here is
key.
the offset serrated knife, which is key knife for doing anything that has a skin on it. Things like bread that's
Fingers.
got that crust on there. Finger if you want to chop one, which we don't. So you got your offset serrated, which is key. Also good for tomatoes.
So skinned stuff.
Yep.
Oh,
you
for
have
tomatoes.
a boning knife as well, which is good for things like filleting fish, for working with meat. You'll notice it has an upswept curve to the tip of the blade. And you would use this for removing skin from a fish. So you have a boning knife that feels comfortable in your hand, and then also a utility knife. Now your utility knife is going to be one that you can kind of choose on your own, one that's going to be comfortable for your hand. This is going to be
particular. Is it because of the size that it's, or is this a blade thing that differentiates?
It's because of the size, because it's going to be your go-to knife when you need to cut some sausage really quick for a party or cut a couple pieces of cheese or something. This is going to be your go-to knife for everything. So you want it to be comfortable in your hand. You want it to be sharp. You want to have plastic handles so that you can wash them off, get them into the dishwasher if you need to. You don't got to worry about chipping, anything like that. They grip really easily. They're solid. They're durable.
Couple quick questions. One, should you put knives in the dishwasher?
You can, yes, except for obviously not wood-handled knives. If you have like a grandma's knife like this one here, which is an old hickory, I have numerous of these great knives. Carbon steel, extremely sharp. They require a little bit of maintenance though, because you have to keep them oiled or they will rust. These kind of knives don't go in the dish machine at all.
All right, the one thing I want to see you cut is the tomato, because that tricks a lot of people. And you actually use the serrated bread knife for tomatoes.
Definitely.
I've never heard
for
of that.
tomatoes, definitely. You have the offsetted knife. It's offset like this so that you can get down onto the cutting board without it being a knuckle buster. You see, you're not busting your knuckles there.
Don't
tough
bust
skin.
your knuckles.
No,
And
bust
what you want to remember when you're doing this is that you want to let the knife do the work. You don't want to be pressing and trying to push through. You're going to juice out your tomato. Just set the serrated section really nicely, loosely, right on the top like that.
That's pretty.
And use the sawing motion of the serrated portion of the blade, and you'll come up with delicious,
And you don't
perfect
lose the guts.
slices
I always end up squishing and losing the guts. So that means I have a bad knife.
Myself as well. They also even work on these little guys here, these little cherry tomatoes, which are a pain to try to cut. If you do these the same way, you'll end up with nice little pieces of cherry tomato without having guts flying all over and mushing them down into your cutting board. So the offset serrated is a key knife.
The chef knife, the offset serrated, the boning knife, and then the utility.
And utility knife, yeah. You don't need a paring knife. Paring knife, a lot of people have paring knives in there. Unless you're going to be like turning vegetables and all sorts of detail stuff like that, I rarely, if ever, use a paring knife. Anything I can do with a paring knife, I can do with the utility knife. Yeah.
Okay, so those four.
That is
Ditch
so
the
cool.
rest.
Way
Don't
to go,
wash
Mike.
those wooden handles.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Mike's our teacher today. He's our professional chef, giving you the 4 essentials in your kitchen knife drawer. 262-523-4244 is the number to call at Thunder Bay to make reservations. Wonderful place to go and dine. ThunderBayGrill.com is the website, and they're located right off of Interstate 94 on exit 294. Always great to see you, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thank you.